So now we're going to solve radical equations. So when solving radical equations, I know that the very first thing that I have to do is I have to get the radical by itself. Okay, so when I look at this equation that I've been given in front of me, this thing right here, which is the radical, is not by itself. So in order for that to be by itself, I need to get this 7 out of here. This 7 is the thing that's causing all the problems. So I'm going to minus 7. Okay, and that will zero that out. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So now I'm left with m minus 7. Oh, my tablet's messing up a little bit there, sorry. Is equal to the square root of 2m minus 15. All right, so now that I have the radical by itself, I can eliminate that radical. And the way that I eliminate a square root is by squaring both sides of the equation. So I'm going to square the m plus 7, and then I'm going to square this whole thing right here. So what that does on the left side is that gives me m minus 7 times m minus 7. And I'm going to have to multiply that out in a minute. But don't worry, we got this. What that does for me on the right side is that allows me to eliminate the radical and to make it go away. All right, so I am one step closer to solving this equation. So now I'm going to multiply this out. So I have m times m, which is m squared, negative 7 times m, which is negative 7m, again, negative 7m, and then in the back, I've got positive 49. I didn't do anything to the right side of the equation, so just for right now, I'm going to drop this down, and I'll deal with it in just a second. All right, so then like we talked about in previous videos, I need to clean each side of the equation up. So if I look at the left side of the equation, I see that these two things right here, they can go together. So m squared, he's fine how he is, but I know that negative 7 minus 7 is going to give me negative 14m plus 49. And then I still have my equal bar, and I haven't touched this over here yet. But now it's time for me to take a look at it, because I know that in order to solve a quadratic equation, I have got to get everything on one side of the equation. So I know that this is a positive 2m, and the only way I'm going to zero it out is to subtract 2m, and then it goes away, because it will zero out. I also know that this is an equation, so what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side to keep things equal. I also know that I need this 15 to go away, so the opposite of a negative 15 is a positive 15, and that zeroes that out. And again, due to properties of equality, what I do to one side, I do to the other. Okay, so now I am looking at my equation. I'm doing pretty good. I know it may not feel like it, but you are. So I didn't change the m squared at all. I know that this is going to turn into negative 16m. And then I know that this is going to be plus 64 is equal to 0. All right, from this point, I have a couple of different ways to solve it. I can either solve it by factoring, or I can solve it by the quadratic formula. I also have the option of putting it in my calculator and looking for the roots. So I'm going to show you how to solve it first by factoring, and then I'm going to show you how to use your calculator to solve it. So I'm looking for two things that add together to give me negative 16, but multiply together to give me positive 64. And I know that that's going to be 8 and 8. Let me slide this down so we get a little bit extra room here. All right, so I'm going to rewrite it. So I have m squared, and these should be negatives. I apologize. I said negative, but I wrote positive. So m squared minus 8m minus 8m plus 64. Okay. So I'm going to group So I know the first parentheses, I can take out a positive m, and that's going to leave me with m minus 8. And I know in my second parentheses, I can take out a negative 8, and that is also going to leave me with an m minus 8. If you are confused on the factoring process, like I said, in a moment, I will show you how to check it in your calculator. So then I know that I've got m minus 8 times m minus 8. Okay, so those are literally the same thing. So when I really only have to put one of them equal to 0. So I'm going to say m minus 8 is equal to 0, and I'm going to solve it by adding 8 on both sides. And I know that my answer is equal to 8. If I go back to my original question, that tells me that my answer is D. All right, let me show you how to check it in the calculator. So we got down to this part right here. Actually, I'm sorry, this part right here, and we were like, factoring too much. So at this point, what I could do is I could take this and put it in my graphing calculator, and I could say x squared minus 16x plus 64, and I could hit graph and I could see where it touches the x-axis. So when I take a look at it, I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it. I see that it touches the x-axis at 8, so that tells me that 8 is my answer choice. I'm going to give you one more option to check it. One of the ways that I could also check it is to take and I'm going to erase this so we can see it, is to take the original equation and put it in the calculator and put the left side in as y1 and put the right side in as y2 and find that intersection. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to clear it out, and y equals is just going to get x. All right, on my other side, I'm going to put in my radical. So in order to do that, I have to hit second and then x squared. And I'm going to type in my problem. All right, so now I'm going to hit my graph button. And when I hit my graph button, I'm looking for the place where they run into each other. So as you can see, they run into each other somewhere around here. But the problem is I don't exactly know the name of that point. I could go back to my paper and I could do process of elimination and pick D, because D is the only one that has one answer choice. And I know that it couldn't be B because the red one isn't even over on the left side of the origin. So I know I can't have any negative answers. So I can knock out B and C. So then that just gets me down to A and D. But what do I do if it doesn't look as clear? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you how to find your answer. So I'm going to choose second, calc, and I'm going to choose option number 5 for my intersection. So when I choose option number 5, I'm going to slide kind of close to the red line, but not on top of it. I'm going to hit enter. And then there we go. And I'm going to hit enter again. And it's going to say, hey, do you want me to graph? Yeah, I do, because you're a computer. And it tells me right here that the intersection is 8.0. So that tells me that my best answer choice is D.